These are the habits that have made me millions of dollars trading cryptocurrency. Now, if you're new here, make sure you're subscribed, smash the like button, drop a comment. This is my third 4-year cycle, and I have made millions and lost millions of dollars over the years, and I'm going to help you guys navigate the cryptocurrency space. Now, one of the biggest things that I see that people kind of fall prey to is they always think that this time is different, or they always get really euphoric in the wrong times, and they don't consider taking profits when they necessarily should be thinking about that. Now, profit taking is not a sexy topic. I understand that. And realistically speaking, everybody always thinks that whenever things are going crazy, the price is only going to go higher. But the reality is 90% of traders, they lose money. Now, one of the main things that really set me aside is you need to have a strategy and a sort of mindset that works specifically for you, because there's no two people that are going to be the same when it comes to investing. You're always going to have to develop your own strategy and your own goals. Realistically speaking, a lot of people come into this space and they have no plan, they have no goal, they just kind of follow the crowd, they see what they see on, crypto Twitter or whatever the case may be, and that's what they make their investment decisions off of. Now, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people will never understand, but there's massive manipulation, especially now. We make the joke that crime is essentially legal when it comes to crypto, and I think that there's a lot of truth to that, because crypto is a 24/7 moving market where you have all these countries that can basically control it in different ways and pretty much dominate the market at different time zones. So if you're somebody that is very overly diversified, I think that that is going to be one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because you can't necessarily track all of them if you're not somebody that's a sophisticated investor. And realistically speaking, most of you guys are not. So you just need to be allocated to enough cryptos that you can realistically keep track of, that have network adoption, that generate fees, that have a hot narrative, because this is a very attention-based economy when it comes to making money. And you've probably seen the ups and downs of different narratives, and you'll see it, a few select coins do exceptionally well. And then a few months later, they're down in the dust, and a whole set of new kind of coins and new narratives are popping off. So you need to sort of identify trends early, get in, take profits on the way up, and be okay with selling too early versus holding on for too long. Now, another big mistake that I see people make is they just don't take profits at all, and they just bag hold, frankly, so to speak, all the way down to zero. And that's a recipe for disaster. And the sad reality is, if you look over the 4-year cycles, every single year there's a whole different new top 100 coins. Now, obviously, sure, there's 5 to 10 that have stood the test of time and they're still around, they're still doing well, but the reality is that's probably not going to be majority of your altcoins. And I think that as the cycle kind of matures and we see Wall Street adopting Bitcoin, Ethereum, we have Bitcoin treasury companies, we have spot ETFs, I think that the main focus when it comes to liquidity in the markets and what the big boys are going to be buying is going to be that. Those are the products that they're going to take to their investors, and those are going to be the products that probably offer more liquidity. You're going to have a lot more attention. You're not necessarily going to have so much attention going into altcoin B, C, and D versus, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, things of that nature. Now, obviously, I don't really like XRP, but that is like the main boomer banker coin that unfortunately is going to still have a lot of attention, but I do think that the results are going to be very underwhelming in my opinion. So another thing, getting married to your bags or being in I think another big issue is if you hold a crypto and you're just so emotional to it, you just want to hold it because, it promises the world or the community or whatever the case may be. You have to separate the emotion from the investment and understand why you're here in the first place. We joke that we're in this for the tech and, it's the future and whatever, but the reality is most people are here to make money. And if they're not here to make money, the big players behind the scenes are. So just because, your coin is doing well for now doesn't mean you shouldn't sell it and then perhaps accumulate it later when it inevitably drops 70 to 80%, as most of these cryptos do. So those are going to be most of my, I would say, habits that would keep me successful. So to wrap all this up, the biggest takeaways that I would think about is 1, consider taking profits. 2, do not get emotionally attached to your bags. 3, identify narratives. And you want to think on the contrarian view, because that's typically how markets react. They want you to think one thing, and then usually what happens is it goes a complete opposite direction. So you could even counter trade most of what people say on crypto Twitter, because the reality is most of the people that made money, they're not actually smart. They don't really know what's going on. They got lucky and they grew a following based off of whatever they previously earned. And really nobody knows what's going on. We can all just make, educated guesses or identify trends. So that's number 3. And I think the most important one is understand that your journey is not going to be everybody else's journey. Only you know why you're investing, and you need to stick to your plan no matter what, because you're the one that's going to be who you have to deal with at the end of the day. And you have to be okay with your decisions. You can't live your life based on anybody else's but your own. So hope that helps. Subscribe, drop a comment, smash the like button. I'll see y'all soon.